Welcome to Art Schools Network's No More webinar series. We're so glad you could join us for this special episode for looking at our On Your Way Talent Scholarship Program musical theater judge, Lara Teeter. Lara, you are...
Hello, everybody.
Yes, you are so kind to let me flub your name right out of the gate. So Lara is going to spend the morning with us, or this 30 minutes. Art Schools Network is a consortium of leaders of art schools, and Webster University is one of those leaders. In fact, one of their member faculty has a seat on our board. I'm your webinar host. I'm the executive director of that organization, and we want you to send questions in today. This has been really helpful in the past webinars where you're able to ask the judges particular nuances around your art form. And we're happy to interrupt the discussion and make sure we address all your questions and concerns or suggestions. This series about the judges is sponsored by the College of Charleston. Their generosity has allowed us to secure our judges for a couple of hours for all the art forms and get them to talk deeply about the guidelines and the criteria. On Your Way is actually a student talent recognition program where students receive a minimum of a $500 scholarship, and anyone who applies and those that win, their information is shared with all of our member college admissions offices, and it's a great first entree into pursuing your post-secondary career. The sponsor of the On Your Way program is actually Earth, Wind & Fire, and they'll be with us next week in New York. We're very excited to have such a high-profile endorsement for people that just want to continue to give back to what gave them such a great life, and that's a music education. Last year's winners, and going forward, I mentioned this already, they automatically bypass the National Young Arts Foundation's Young Arts program. And what this means is that the Young Arts deadline is coming up. It's this Friday, I believe. And those who enter our competition, the winners, will be automatically forwarded into the second round of adjudication for Young Arts, meaning if you miss the deadline or not, you're going to get a better opportunity of being selected. You skip from the 10,000 applicants down to the first 500. Okay, so back to musical theater and our judge today. We're lucky to have what looks to be an incredibly handsome gentleman, Lara Teeter from Webster University, Leisure Dine School of the Arts. Whoops, what just happened? There you are, Lara. And he's going to talk to us about his career. I have his bio up on the screen, and you can see all the impressive things he's associated with, led, created. But I've asked Lara, instead of talking about those, could he talk more about his career pathway from when he knew he wanted to be in theater to today? And he has a fabulous family tie-in as well. So I would like to hear your story.
Well, my gosh, you guys have about 3 hours. Just kidding. I think that the tie-in for me is, I mean, for those of you who are aspiring young artists, for those of you who are teachers and or parents, really where it started for me was in the classroom when I had very crazy, lunatic teachers who were really beyond creative and passionate about the subject matter of really more or less what it meant to be an artist. And they really appealed to my imagination first and foremost. I think one of the first assignments when I realized I loved the theater was this lady sat up in front of the class, and it was a 7th grade required speech course in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And she had this Mary Tyler Moore hair and this big beauty mark and cat glasses, and her voice was lower than mine will ever be. And she stepped up in front of the class and kicked off her shoes, which was scandalous, and said, "Okay, your first thing is going to be a pantomime, and it can be funny or sad, and you just need to come up with a beginning, middle, and end." Of course, everybody else was sinking in their chair, and I really took to that. And Also, just on television, Dick Van Dyke, Ray Bolger, Red Skelton, yes, even Jerry Lewis, all those kind of crazy physical comedians were really important to me. And then ultimately, Fred Astaire and Gene Kelly, watching them dance.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so my high school, again, it just from one teacher to the next, I started doing plays, and The Wizard of Oz was one of the first things I did, and had no idea that I was going to spend a lot of my career playing that part. Probably played it 9 or 10 times by now. And true story. And I didn't really take any dance class until I was 18. I was an athlete, along with being, if you watch the movie High School Musical, that's kind of my story without the girl, without the romance. And, my drama teacher and basketball coach had issues with each other, and that's kind of what I did. And then I went to OCU, Oklahoma City University, and studied theater arts, and moved to New York in 1978. And my first gig was in front of the George M. Cohan statue when I did pantomime and made $15.38. And really just started learning how to dance and take ballet in college. And I tell people I really didn't learn how to dance until I actually got to New York City and started taking dance class and realized that I really had so much more to learn. And then from there, did some shows in New York. And in the middle of the 1980s, if you look at the audience, what was going on in New York City, there was a show I did called On Your Toes, and Tommy Tune was doing a show called My One and Only. And when those revisals, they sort of called them, closed, Cameron McIntosh moved into town with the big shows, Cats, Bis Saigon, Les Mis, and
Oh,
Phantom.
wow.
And so the song and dance thing was not happening in the mid-'80s, and so there was this huge exodus, actually, in the mid-'80s to Los Angeles. And so I went to Los Angeles. I got back into acting class. I started directing and choreographing. I got asked to do West Side Story for California State University Long Beach, and really discovered my calling, which was to teach. And I ended up directing and choreographing 14 Jets and Sarks that had never danced before.
Wow.
But I had them flying around the stage and really learned how to approach it from an actor standpoint. And a month after that closed, a position at Cal State Fullerton opened up, and that started my career in teaching. And I was able for many years to kind of have my cake and eat it too. And after teaching for 7 years, I got burnt out and went back out on the road, and had a relationship with my now wife in California at the time, and I went back out on the road with Wizard of Oz, with Eartha Kitt and Mickey Rooney.
Wow.
And then we got married while I was on the road, and then we wanted to have a family, and then I moved to Chicago and taught at Northwestern for a little while and was the artistic director of a company. And then we continued to have, and now that sort of ended me up here in St. Louis, back in the Midwest, where it's just where we really both want to be with our children. I've got 4 kids. I've got 11-year-old twins, a 7-year-old, and a 4-year-old, 3 girls and a boy. And I've been here at Webster for 6 years. And that's pretty much that.
That is a lot. That is wonderful. Gosh, I loved hearing your transition, and I love the moving around for the work. That is common among all of the judges in these past webinars, is just the mobility and the different creative networks they had to plug into and then extract themselves out of. Just to continue to grow. And all of the judges, and this is true of so many faculty at the finer schools of the arts, are participating in their art form that they teach. So they're directing, choreographing, dancing in companies, publishing, exhibiting, and you're not just teaching, you're doing your art form. And that was a great hopscotch back and forth between both, and the merging of them now. So I feel so lucky that our kids are going to be able to hear from you. I want to give you just one opportunity now to talk a little bit about Webster University, and then we're going to transition into the guidelines and the rating criteria. So I think it's important for folks to know, why did we pick Webster? Because they're a member, and what does Webster have to offer?
Well, Webster, and you see on the wonderful picture there, that is actually our Webster University Dance Ensemble, better known as WOOD. And the dance department is a wonderfully small department, and they are, I think that's one of the things that my chair would agree with me. We like to call Webster a boutique program. And then please, I will invite all of our listeners to go on the web to check out the musical theater portion. I think if I could just say that in the conservatory, we have our technical theater majors, which are about 3 different majors in set, sound, and costume. And then in addition, we have a stage management major. And then in the performance, and then we also, just brand new, and for those of you out there listening, this may be of interest to some of your students who find themselves that want to be a teacher. We have a new degree that's just been offered now for, I think we're in our 2nd year, for theater criticism and dramaturgy. That's a very exciting new program, because we found ourselves turning down a lot of students who weren't necessarily interested in performance, they weren't necessarily interested in technical theater, but they really loved studying theater.
Yes.
So finally, after many years of discussion, we got the right person in to start the program, and we're very stuck. Dr. Gad Guterman is here, and he is just a hugely wonderful addition to our company. And then more specifically, for my end of it, we have 2 performance majors, a BFA in musical theater and a BFA in acting. And there's so many things I could say about it, but from a musical theater standpoint, since I am the head of the musical theater program, I tell all the perspectives that our focus is on acting. That is the main reason people will choose Webster, the musical theater program at Webster, because they understand that the acting is the focus. For the 4 years of training here, the 8 semesters of sequence in our program, 3 of the core classes, voice and speech, movement for the actor, and acting, are taken lockstep with the acting majors at Webster. So they're doing their Shakespeare scenes together, their Chekhov scenes together, they're doing their voice and speech work, and their movement, their clown, their commedia dell'arte, their stage combat with the acting majors. And so we really think that that is, our curriculum is kind of a go-to curriculum in terms of any professional theater training program. The sequence of what we have is kind of old school classic theater training. And then layered on top of that, of course, is our song study, and our musical theater majors are required to take a certain amount of dance classes and music theory, piano, and choir, and voice lessons and vocal coachings. That all makes it a very saturated BFA.
Yes,
And I think people understand that when they go to a conservatory. It's not, there are liberal arts degrees out there in musical theater, and they're wonderful programs, but more and more people are choosing the BFA programs. And it's really, in musical theater, it's almost like getting 3 degrees, because you do have to have training in music, dance, and theater. And then we have professional affiliations with the St. Louis Repertory Theater Company here. A lot of our students we share the space with them, so we crew the shows, but also our students do get cast in those shows. And then St. Louis, one of the gems of St. Louis, there are 28 historical sites in St. Louis, and one of those historical sites is kind of a gem of St. Louis. And right now, of course, everybody's thinking about the St. Louis Cardinals. But one of our gems is the oldest and biggest outdoor theater in the country, which is the Muni Theater in Forest Park. It seats 11,000 people. Wow. And it's been around for 95, 96 years. So back around the time, right after the World's Fair, this got started. And it's gone, of course, through many renovations. And as of 2 years ago, we made an official announcement, and we have an official partnership with the Muni. And what that means for those performers listening out there is that last year, a record number of students from Webster, 6 total, got their equity cards by doing the somersault
Wow.
out at the Muni Theater.
That is awesome. That's big.
The artistic director, Mike Isaacson, who prior to him taking over the Muni 2 years ago was with Fox Theatricals, he continues to produce on Broadway. His most recent thing was Bring It On, but he was also one of the online producers for Legally Blonde. And he is quite an incredible force. I call him a young Florence Ziegfeld. He comes out and coaches our students and works with them directly and helps them prepare for New York and for auditions. And so we have a lot going on. And I guess the last couple of things I'll say about the program, because I know we need to move on, is that our musical theater majors perform in the plays, and our acting majors are cast in the musicals. I like to call it cross-pollination.
Yes.
So for those people who want to be an acting major but love doing musicals, Webster's the perfect place for that. And then lastly, I'll talk about the way we assess. I know for those teachers who are listening out there, we give our grades for what happens in our classroom, but in the conservatory, the performance faculty meets once, sometimes twice a week, and we do a roll call where we go down one class. So we'll take the seniors the third week of classes, and then we work in reverse order, juniors, sophomores, then we wait a couple of weeks, and we do the freshmen after the first 7 weeks of classes. We actually just did that last week before fall break because we need more time to be in the classroom with them. And we go, each of the teachers, the voice and speech person, the movement person, the acting person, the musical theater song study person, gives a feedback of where these students are and what they want, where they need to go. So even on any given semester, if I don't have that particular student in my class, I know what their trajectory is because by the end of the semester I've heard them talked about in 3 different roll calls. And what that means is that the professors at Webster are very vigilant. We know what you're doing at any time, and it also means you really can't get away with anything. We are vigilant in the best sense of the word, and that's our program in a nutshell.
I wouldn't call that a nutshell. I think that's more of like a nice big coconut. That was great, and I appreciate that. And I know it's just so hard to convey all that you have in one image and in 5 minutes. And one thing that just jumps out to me loud and clear is that there really are right fit schools for right fit kids. And
well, then if I may talk about that, the newly elected. I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I'm part of an organization called the Musical Theater Educators Alliance International, which is about 15 years old now. It is basically a group of college professors that teach at all these big programs. And 15 years ago, there were, I think 14 years ago, there were like 5 of us that went to Wales to do a symposium over there. And then we've also been to Göteborg, Sweden. We have about 12 members now from the European community and about 60 members from the United States. We hosted it at Webster last year, and so what's great about that is that when I talk to prospectives, I'm able to talk to them about these other wonderful programs out there because I know the teachers in these programs quite intimately. We're getting ready to have a meeting in January, and I was just elected the new president coming up in this next season, so I'm thrilled to represent such an esteemed group of professional teachers.
I think that's impressive. I can't. You are an amazing person that should be cloned.
Well, actually, no one wanted the position. I think is how.
That was by default. Well, we would love to host that kind of convening, Art Schools Network. So let's go offline one day and talk more about that. That sounds really exciting. The On Your Way contest that you're judging for us, the deadline is this November 15th. And so it's important that people keep that in mind. How do you apply? Through our website. So you can click to apply on our website. It takes you straight to the portal where you will begin to just click on some drop-down menus. You can see the guidelines there. It's quite self-explanatory, and they do have excellent tech support. Students are super social media savvy, and they can sign up using their Facebook account, which will just automatically populate. When it gets to their media files they're uploading so that you the judges, can adjudicate, that's real simple. It's just like attaching a document to an email message. Same thing for the media files, and it's all real clearly spelled out there. The payment can come from a couple of directions: the school, the student, a parent. We have some coupons for bulk purchases. So this is when you submit. Boom. Now it's November 15th. The judges are going to adjudicate. This is what our dear judge in the line, Lara Teeter, will be seeing, except it will be customized to musical theater. So he and all the other judges for all the categories will see this one-page snapshot. They'll click on your video files and view them. They score them over here, and then they send you a note. So you're going to be getting feedback from these prestigious faculty, and I mean, just listen to what Lara had to discuss earlier. So now I'm going to bring Lara back to the forefront and ask him to go through our musical theater guidelines and just speak to each bullet for a very brief amount of time, but talk to what you think this means to students. How should they interpret this?
I would love to do that. I think one of the key elements for you students and teachers out there listening, and again, please know that I do know that a lot of you out there do completely understand this. So please never feel like I'm talking down to you, because I know that there are those of you out there who understand this completely, and those of you may be confused, and maybe some of your questions will have to do with the specifics of this. I think it's really important, though, and this is for the future, because I'll tell you right now that my graduating seniors from the conservatory are getting used to how to upload their auditions. And I've already had experience myself about sending in auditions online. It's just the nature of things. So that's one of the great things that Accepted does, is to get everybody kind of in on the ground floor of what you're going to be doing for the rest of your career. Excellent. And what I want to say is that really follow the guidelines. I know that sounds simple, but you'll be surprised at how many people do not follow the guidelines. And when it says 2-minute selections, that doesn't mean 2, 2.5, or 3-minute selections. Now, you're lucky in one way when you're dealing with me, because I'm usually very gracious when it comes to those kinds of things, because I understand that there are some students who apply don't have the proper support, and they're kind of doing it on their own, and I get that, and that's cool. So I'm not going to chastise them or criticize them for that. But for those teachers who are out there who want to properly instruct your students, from here and for the rest of their career, just follow the instructions. You know, 2-minute selections, 1 song, 1 spoken monologue. I think this is very, very important, as choosing material appropriate for your age. I don't think an 18-year-old should choose a monologue about a 35-year-old young mom who is going through a divorce.
Amen.
Even though they might be a good actor, it's not fair to themselves or to the people adjudicating to judge that kind of a thing. You know, again, it says first the song, then the monologue. So go in that order. That's pretty straightforward. From a book musical, not a song cycle or review, I think this is the one big misstep I see more often than not. Because, again, a lot of us listening right now know what a book musical is, but maybe there's some people that don't understand what a book musical is. It's when I see the word book musical, I think of the golden era, everything from 1967 backwards. I mean, you know, yes, there are book musicals. In fact, the recent Tony Award winner, Kinky Boots, is, I feel like, written in the fashion of the golden era book musical. You know, a book musical means character-driven, where there's a conflict involved. I mean, certainly Hairspray, Legally Blonde, I think those would count for it. But it needs to be characters that are developed in song and dance. The song should be accompanied and live or pre-recorded. Again, I don't have a preference. I just think, well, as opposed to singing a cappella, we need to know that the student has a certain understanding of musicality.
Yes.
So even though sometimes they sing a cappella, it's hard for us to tell whether or not they can do a duet, because an audition is really part of a good audition is being able to do a duet with the artist that's sitting behind the piano. Monologues can be from a classical or contemporary play. Yeah, don't do monologues from a musical or original material. I think the one that's done the most often is from the Fantastics, where the girl is talking about, I can comb my hair 100 times, and you know, I close my eyes and I have tears running down my face. I'm paraphrasing the heck out of that one. But, you know, so make sure it is from a play. And also, I think it's really important, teachers, to make sure that the student has read the play and can say to you, so if you say to them, what is the play about, they should be able to answer that question, and then what is the arc of the play. And now we get into text analysis and preparation, which is not necessarily on this, but it's important for them to know the arc of the character and where that monologue or song lands in the play.
Yes.
And then everything must be in English. So I think that's all pretty straightforward.
Fantastic. I so appreciate how crisp and clear you are in your descriptions. Going to the actual scoring and rating, so those were the guidelines, to, you know, the preparational side. Now they've submitted and you're going in and scoring. And I just would like you to do the same thing that you just did on the last slide, kind of speak to these three things.
Well, I think the storytelling is really has to do with, again, like I just said, knowing what the arc of the character is. And as I'm talking, I realize that I say words like arc, and you know, I realize that it may be assumed that someone knows what that means. An arc of a show is basically the beginning, middle, and end. So typically, when this monologue happens in the show, think about what the pre-beat was, you know, what has just happened to make this character either sing or say this monologue or song. And then the interpretation of it is really, another way I like to look at this is a point of view. Sometimes students will be afraid to really go there and have a strong opinion or a point of view about what this character is going through. Here's another thing I want to say that I talk a lot about in my classroom and when I look at auditions, which is that the most important person in the audition isn't the auditioner themselves, but it's the person that they're singing and or talking to. So when you see a good audition online, you see that, you know, I think everybody kind of understands there's two ways to do it. One is like, hi, my name is Lara Teeter. This is me doing my audition song. This is me doing my monologue. Or, hello, my name is Lara Teeter. Now I'm going to show you my craft by being a real good actor, storyteller. And one of the ways to do that is to make the person you're talking to almost be so there in the audition that I want them to pan the camera so that, or if you're talking to the camera, I feel like I'm the person in the scene with you.
Yes, that's good.
And then I think, you know, look, I noticed in the slide back there, one of the grading points is accepted and declined. And I think that I want everybody to understand that almost in every single situation, thank you, Christy, for going back. Almost in every situation for us here at Webster, you're going to be accepted, and here's why. The accepted program really is an introduction. It is, hello, I'm interested in Webster. What do you think? I'm going to give you a written feedback and some scores. And based on that, you're welcome to contact me. And really, we aren't going to accept anyone into Webster's program by this medium. In most schools, they use this as a kind of a pre-audition, and then you get rejected. And basically, we're saying, you know, don't waste your money, don't come in. And I'm just going to say, for my part, in most cases, I'm going to invite you to come because I think it's important for you to be in the room. That's when it really happens for us, because Webster is an ensemble school. We're not interested in the me, we're interested in the we.
That's
so
great.
A big portion of our, 50% of our audition is the audition itself, but then the other 50% is just the person in the room, because we're going to cast you and spend the next 4 years with you. So I never have quite understood the programs that are able to see you, say thank you very much, and let you go. When you audition in person with us, we always, after your audition, we invite you to come over to the table. Here on campus, we have a lot of our students come hang out with you in the green room and talk to you and answer questions.
That's great.
And so just so everybody knows, I think that know that when you submit these things for Webster that you have well, I'm first and foremost a parent, and then I'm a teacher, and then because of my parenting and teaching, I'm an artist. And so I really understand what these kids are going through, and I'm there to lend a helping hand in their process.
That's so beautiful. That is so beautiful. I love that you come as you are, and we'll take you to where you need to be.
That's it. I love that. Come as you are. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Okay. Gosh, we're already out of time. What a bummer. I wanted you to talk about artist statement, and we have to be very brief.
I'm so sorry. I'm so verbose when I talk about myself.
I love your verbosity. Is that a word?
It is, I think.
Okay, good. Then I love it. So what is the importance of an artist statement? What is it from your perspective? You've been so great about giving us your insights on everything else.
Well, I think you just have to speak the truth, and again, a well-written statement like this needs to have a beginning, middle, and end, an opening statement about yourself and about what you see your potential. Also, I think it's important in these statements to talk about a weakness that you might have and that you hope to address as an artist, what it means to be an artist, and go for it.
That's fantastic. That's great. The be yourself, be open, and ask for help. I've not heard that yet. That's neat. Like, this is the thing I'm tackling and I'd like to accomplish. With our On Your Way program, our artist statement, we actually have flipped it into a prompt. And so we'll leave that as a surprise for those who apply. Well, thank you for joining us today with Lara Teeter. We have one more episode coming on visual arts. You can see the past episodes on our website. We hope you're a member. If not, please join. These are the kinds of valuable resources we bring to the table for you. And we hope you'll also see us in New York next week. It's not too late to register. Again, thank you for joining us. Thank you, Lara Teeter. And this has been just such an enlightening session.
Thank you all. Good luck to everybody.
Okay, fantastic. Goodbye.